Caribou Weather Dude YouTube channel. Joey Only here in Wells, British Columbia. 3,953 feet above sea level. Hit like, share, and subscribe. Tell a friend. Yes, we got some snow coming to British Columbia this weekend. I promised you that would happen. The pattern change is underway. It is already happening. It's maybe not that noticeable yet. We do have a pretty cold night still ahead, and maybe a few, we're still on the chilly side of things. It's going to be extremely cold over there, and I'll explain it all. It's going to be extremely cold over there in Alberta beyond, and that's affecting us. And but we still have storms punching in. We're going to get some snow, and then eventually the storm train is going to win and push back that cold air, and everything will be different by this time next week. Absolutely. Anyways, no, the full moon does not cause madness, but it can affect the ocean and can affect the weather. But no, you are very small, ocean very, very big. The gravitational pull does not have any effect on you whatsoever. The math is clear on that, and so are the statistics. We could look at that if you want. People are really resistant to this idea, but I'm a rationalist, and we look at data and facts. And the fact of the matter is, although you may notice the moon when it's full and then see something crazy happen and say, oh, it was a full moon, the reality is every day fucked up things are happening on Earth. It doesn't stop. The rate of fucked upness doesn't change with the full moon. I promise you that. But the weather can, and that has its own problems. So we're seeing, all in all, a bit of a pattern change in the Pacific Ocean. We'll talk about everything. Hit like, share, subscribe, tell a friend. Let's go. There it is.
This is bad news.
My God.
Falling out right now. Anything could happen.
Get on! Wow.
I'll watch the video later. They dry mopping this. Also on the docket today for the end of this episode, we'll look at a couple avalanche incidents that have happened this week. Conditions are generally good for not having crazy avalanches in the BC interior. However, things keep happening, and this weekend you're going to go riding. Just keep in mind that it's still not, we haven't had any deaths, I don't believe, from avalanches in BC this year. I'd really like to see it keep that way. So here's a big storm there off the coast, 970 low, well-developed, organized, although not incredibly deep. No, 970, we see storms like that often off the Pacific coast. A nice dry slot there. You can see that Pacific moisture coming in, right? A little bit of the remnants there. Into Alberta with a small skiff of snow or two for them today, but the cold is settling in for them. Extreme temperatures for them still through the weekend. Going to say into the minus 30s through parts of the prairies. Very cold. Now we can see that California is back in the dry slot. That high pressure system is now back in place. So all the crazy flooding and things that were happening around Los Angeles yesterday, flash floods, that is now in the past for now. And that storm is moving across and is now sitting in the middle of the continent. And it's going to, in time for Saturday, you can see a little bit of thunderstorm activity sparking up down there in Louisiana and whatnot, and the edge of Texas and a little bit in Alabama. But what's going to happen tomorrow is that's sort of a precursor. You can see a lightning flash there. That's a precursor to what's coming tomorrow, because as this low moves across, it's going to instigate snowmageddon for Ontario. And in the meantime, that will create this long trough in behind where severe thunderstorm outbreaks are quite likely through Dixie, through the Appalachians and places like that, but especially down through Alabama, I think, Louisiana. Those are areas that are looking at some severe storm developments. Watch your American storm-chasing friends. I'm not here to forecast for the United States. Still that high pressure coming into the center of the country, bringing that cold air all the way down, helping feed these storms, making them particularly nasty. You got a nice flow of warm air up from the Gulf, where it's been quite warm. The Gulf of Mexico. One way you know the pattern change has begun is that we already have some increasing cloud cover in BC. So you can see a bit of that Pacific push coming in, but you can also see how it's running up against a wall of cold, a wall of high pressure. That's going to steer things from getting too snowy into BC. It's going to take a little while for that to break down, but there you go. As you can see next week, it breaks down, and everything completely changes for everybody at that point. Boof, here it comes on in. Wow, oh yeah. Yeah, maybe not as snowy as we would like, and I think that we're looking at more for the interior, looking more towards Sunday-ish now. You can see that southern interior, that band slides on down. Will bring snow. I'm not seeing significant snow. No, maybe enough to make travel a little difficult at times through the weekend. There comes that next storm next week. And as you can see, there, finally, you watch a low get established and move through the prairies. See some of those L's move in and see some of those low-pressure bulges starting to make their way across the Rockies. That's when we'll really see the significant change for us. That's when the moisture will really ramp up into higher gear, I'm hoping, for at least a little while near the end of the month. As you can see, some of these snow and rain Numbers there look okay, but still, no, not really. Because when you look at what's going on in the temperature realm, and I'll show you what's blocking this. I'm show you why this is having trouble establishing itself with any seriousness. Yeah, it looks great next week. Here's where our temperature is, right? Extremely cold temperature still. Look at that. High pressure all through the prairies, squeezing itself into especially the Alberta side of the Rockies in northern BC up in the Peace and whatnot. Maybe a little bit of that cold squeezing in, but its main effect that I think it's having is that it's acting as a block. It's not letting the storms really punch all the way through. It's kind of deflecting them off, steering things from really taking root at us. But nonetheless, the fact that they're trying, here's humidex values. And look, I mean, although Southern Ontario gets a slamming, and so does the East Coast in general, you look at it, it's very, very dry through much of Canada, very dry through much of the States. That cold air, cold air is dry. That's the nature of cold air. For every degree you go warmer, the amount of moisture that air can hold increases, right? And so when you get super cold air at minus 40 and whatnot, when you get to that temperature, moisture cannot hold itself. It can't just exist there. There's no space for it. So that's why you see like contrails from an aircraft condense very quickly into a cloud when it's very, very cold up top. And we know that even in the summer, it can be very, very cold above us, right? And very, very dry. But what we're seeing right now is a change in that moisture level into the upper levels for us. We're seeing more moisture getting up there above us, right? And that's indicative of the overall pattern change that's now underway. Slow as it may be, not as fast as we'd like, grindingly, stubbornly resistant because of how cold it is. Yeah. I mean, this has been some really, and that cold air is spilling all the way down to Texas. We got places still in the States they'll be seeing probably some records broken, I'm sure, in some places in the far south. But look at that moisture train kick on in. Won't that be lovely? Okay, last map I have. And I love Polar WX for this because Polar WX lets you set up a series of maps ahead of time. And, I can also do presentational things on here. Like we'll stop here and go, okay, look at next week here. Although I don't draw worth crap with the mouse, you wouldn't know that I went to art school. What we're really wanting to see is a low that can send its tail into us and really change the story, right? So that's when that Pacific flow really comes inbound. So we're seeing a bit of a change above us, but we still are waiting for that change to happen at the surface. We'll see some snow this weekend, yeah, and each progressive system that comes will get worse and worse and worse, snowier. We'll look at the Canadian model here through the weekend. See that high pressure there hanging out. See that very, very cold air spilling down there. You can see on Sunday, most of the interior seeing a band of snow in the south, right? Most of that goes relegated to maybe the Caribous a bit, the Rockies, the Columbias. Again, not a great deal of snow. Those aren't like remarkable, shocking looking images here in terms of what they're presenting for us. We're going to see the next one come after that sometime next week, middle of the week. That looks a little better. Heavier snow in the coast mountains there. We're waiting until, I think, this is a signal if this happens next week, Saturday. So, we're watching the change progressively happen. It's not happening fast enough. I don't think it's happening enough. Meteorologist Mark was saying it's like, now it'll help us kind of keep our snowpack levels. It should be enough to start contributing that it stays on statistical average with where it should be, but still well below average. Like, and what I mean is, like, if your original average climbs like this, and we were doing this for a while, well, at least we'll see kind of an uptick where we're putting on at the rate we should be, but we're not making up that lack of snow still that we're seeing. We're at 71 percentile overall in the province, 63% at this time last year, not looking good for the fire season. Mark seems to really think we're in for a dry summer. He gave us a lot of reasons last night on the podcast, which you could find here under the live video section, the meteorological report. So what are we looking at for snow? I mean, yeah, a little bit happening maybe today in that southeast corner of BC, maybe a skiff or two or flurry going on there for you. Looking at a chance of it down in southeastern BC, but again, that's not significant. Nothing there is lighting up in colors that you go, oh wow, look, there's significant snow going on there. There's some better colors down in the States right now. That line's thicker, more developed. So just some flurries, okay? So some flurries there, kind of an early warning shot. Now we're going to watch, in fact, we'll switch down to 2D now already so that we can get these temperatures on here as we come into the morning. Cold morning again for Prince George. You're going to be nearing minus 30, not quite hitting it. So just wait. This will be nice to see what happens here this weekend for everybody here in the Cariboo who's been very cold for quite a while. We've been really taking it quite well here as best we can. But it's a few weeks of it and it's bad. So there you go. This cold, it's holding on. We got really cold over in the prairie side. Holding on here, acting like a big shield, blocking. No, you can't come in. Well, I'm going to try to come in. So it's going to come in. It's going to squeeze against this. It's going to follow these lines down, basically, these ISO lines. And the storm is weakening. But it's the first shot. And we do see, into Saturday evening, in time for Sunday morning. The snow starting to move across parts of BC, maybe some heavier bits in the coast mountains. And we're going to see some strong winds down there as well, actually. And we should take a second and look at that. I think that's going to be a story at some point here. So here's where we might see some warnings issued up the coast for winds tomorrow, or a special weather statement. This is wind gusts I'm looking at. So that's not sustained winds. The sustained winds will be much lower than this, but I like looking at gusts because it gives a sexier image, but it also gives me a sense of how bad can it actually get? It's like sustained winds are bad if they're at 40. Sure, okay, but if there's the odd gust coming that's at 110 kilometers, 120 kilometers an hour in your neighborhood, that could seriously, all it takes is 30 seconds of that, and it could seriously impact things going on in your neighborhood, right? So strong winds into Sunday morning up that coast, right? Up the sun, a little bit up the Sunshine Coast, sure, but no, mostly relegated to the west coast of Vancouver Island, the west coast of BC, into Haida Gwaii, and then up the Alaska Panhandle and whatnot. Okay, back to, as that fades out, back to the snow look. There you can see a bit of snow moving through. Again, nothing crazy. And if we watch that sort of play out, I wish I could make it go just a little faster. So we'll just skip ahead just to give you an idea. Like this is going to slide on down like we saw in the other graphics, and then open us up for a couple dry days. Still better temperatures, minus 18 overnight on Monday. I'll take that. That's way better than we've seen. We're back to 3 degrees during the day, but the sunshine being really warm, it'll often feel warmer than that. So then we're looking Wednesday morning for the arrival, or early to late Tuesday night for the coastal regions, but Wednesday morning for areas more interior. So sometime during your work week, we're going to have more snow. We will look at that next forecast. We're not going to spend too much time guessing about the future here. Just to say that this weekend, yes, some snow is coming. The pattern is changing. It's going to look a whole lot different as we get into this every day. We're going to have much more to talk about. We're going to have more fun to forecast, more reason to coming back to Joey Only Caribou Weather Dude YouTube channel up here. Hear the mountain man himself talk about weather conditions in the wilderness and all this, that. Last story of the day. 3 new avalanche stories to report on since Friday, February the 7th. We got the remote trigger size 1 that was skier triggered yesterday on Vancouver Island on the Coquihalla Summit Rec area. There was on the southwest coast there on Monday, February 10th, and then Avalanche Cueve de la Mélisée on the east coast. Well, I learned something new every day. Here's an avalanche report from the GASBZ. Okay, well, beaucoup de neige accumulée par le vent sur la plaque à la vent. 150 meters it traversed. So a little bit of a story there, I guess. All right, well, here's our avalanche incident we're looking at right here. This one's in British Columbia this time, just to give you a kind of a view of where we're talking about. We're talking about Vancouver Island. Right in the middle of Vancouver Island is this one. So what do we have for an incident right here on this Adder Mountain? Size 1 remote trigger above a train trap while skinning. No harm to anyone in the group, but a close call. And this is kind of consistent, I think, with what we've been seeing the last little while, is we've had a lot of near misses due to instability in the snowpack that persists. However, there's just not the snowpack there for large-scale avalanches. I mean, a lot of places have only taken 10, 20 centimeters of snow in the last calendar month now or something, right? It's been quite dry this winter as we came into the winter itself. It started off pounding, and that's when a lot of the snow got piled on. But still, we haven't seen a great deal of improvement. We're hoping that changes now in the next coming weeks. We're really hoping that changes. So here is just some examples, and a lot of these cases, no one's been injured even when they've been caught in them because they're not getting caught in trees. They're not being carried far enough and they're not being buried. Still, the potential is that, one of these kind of events could turn particularly nasty for somebody, could turn deadly. And now we go to last week, Monday, out on the Coquihalla Highway area. There you go, Zopkios Peak. You know where that is because you've driven by it a lot. Zupjock Peak. Yeah, I never knew there was a place called, but we've all been to Zopkios Chain Up area as you're coming up that Coquihalla Highway. So that just gives you sort of an idea of what you're looking at when you're coming up from Hope. You've now made that chain turn. You're not going down Highway 3, you're going up Highway 5 instead, and you're coming up into the heights of the Coquihalla Range there at Zopkios. So, one person partly buried with normal breathing, one person involved. So, convex roll was identified, and skiers went, it's a long right up here. Okay, well, let's get into this. Skiers went left to descend in the more concave planar portion of the slope. So they're trying to be safe, I guess. And first skier descended and took a position below with easy access to tree cover. Second skier descended, threading the first set of tracks and initiating the slide in the second turn, which was slightly further skier's right than the first descent line. Skier recognized the breaking up of the slab, yelled, "Slide, slide, slide!" First skier cut into the trees and into a safe zone. Second skier skied into and behind a tree and held onto branches as debris came and partly buried the second skier. Second skier was buried to the waist and self-extricated. All equipment was recovered and not damaged. No injuries. Wow, this is great. Another great story, another positive story, and then not so that we don't tell these stories so that we get complacent, recognizing the risk is still there, but a lot of these avalanche incidents have been sort of low scale like this for quite a while. They persistently happen. It's only a matter of time till one of them does result in some unseen thing happening, like people getting slammed into rocks, or in the case of our fire captain from Horsefly, he stood on didn't realize he was standing on a cornice. It wasn't solid rock beneath him, and it let go and he fell and died. That was an example of an incident that still happened at a time when could happen in this case, right? When the slab was initiated, the crown line was approximately 40 to 50 centimeters thick, propagated out to a wind-loaded pocket of 1.5, not quite 2 meters deep over some rocks. Approximate slide was 60 meters across and ran for 60 meters, slightly longer than it was wide. Very obvious wind slab, likely slide on the January crust. So it's been there for a while, this crust. It makes note of the January crust, right? And where do we go? Skiers debriefed in the trees, descended safely, and back to Lago Zupjock Notch and onward to Lago. I never heard of those places, but you're having a better time than me sitting here in Wells. Look at that. Oh, wow, it's a beautiful photo of this potentially disastrous event. And there's where the skier was able to self-extricate himself. And beautiful spot right there. You could see the full moon in the background there. Maybe we could talk about that real quick. Here, health line. Does a full moon affect our physical and mental well-being? There are common beliefs about the full moon influencing from sleep quality to mental health and heart health. Only a few of these have been proven in studies. Only a few of them. The full moon effect. The word lunatic comes from that. That's what people try to tell me. Well, the word lunatic comes from the moon. And I was like, yeah, but we don't put leeches on people anymore either, Like, those are superstition things that are not... We don't need to look at that as evidence of any kind, just the fact that people were superstitious. The source of it can be traced back to ancient Greece and Rome and is well documented. These are buried beliefs that are buried deep into the human, psyche that still, like our need for religion, our need for higher powers, and, these things that seem to persist with humans, like this sort of mystical view of things, still seems to persist with people. During the 70s, Arnold Lieber theorized the moon influenced the body's biological tides. While many of these theories have been debunked, the possibility that humans could be affected by the moon isn't entirely groundless. Although the ocean's tides, they rise and fall. They have reproductive cycles that are roughly timed to lunar cycles, as do women. Still, not many studies link mood to human behavior and health conditions. May affect the quality of your sleep. Okay, so there's some things that can be affected, like the quality of your sleep. May affect males and females a little differently. Okay, full mood, and mental health. This has led to the development of circadian rhythms that may affect your body systems, not your sleep-wake cycle. Circadian rhythms affect your physical and mental health too, but widespread use of electric light means many of your circadian rhythms are adapting to new light and dark patterns, right? So your circadian rhythms are already off. But no, the moon doesn't really change human behavior. That's what many studies have been done, and many studies have not found a statistical change in how busy our the jails? How busy are the hospitals? Some people say, well, my cousin's a nurse and she swears by that. But, that's called anecdotal evidence, right? We need to look at actual facts and data and numbers before we come to conclusions. And we do know that the tides of the ocean do change how the weather comes at us. That's absolutely true. But you are very, very small and the ocean's very big. And if you've ever stood on the ocean and watched the tidal flow, it's considerable, but still it only has so much play. It can really affect how high the oceans go and whatnot, right? And that's the ocean's very, very big, and it still only has that limited effect. Anyways, that's all I got time for today. Hit like, share, subscribe, tell a friend, come back again. It's the Bad News Weather Show, always here with Joey only. Please tell a friend if you can. I need to keep growing this channel. Looking to get to 10,000 subscribers this year, and I can't do it without you. Okay, let's go. Bye now.